Welcome to the NHL Wraparound podcast featuring Neil Smith, President General Manager of the 1994 Stanley Cup champion New York Rangers, and longtime ESPN NHL veteran Vic Morren. Together, they share no-nonsense opinions on news and issues around the National Hockey League. Whether you're a casual or diehard fan, each episode of NHL Wraparound will leave you more informed. Now, here's your hosts, Neil and Vic.
Welcome to NHL Wraparound's Stanley Cup Final preview show presented by UBS Financial Services, Inc. Vic Morren, Neil Smith. Partner, I got to tell you something, that once this final is done, the one thing I'm going to miss is not seeing Craig Button every 2 weeks.
I absolutely agree with you, and it's been so much fun. I don't want it to end, even though I'm not where I should be in the standings. But anyway, Craig, welcome in. Thanks for doing this again. Once again, you're here, and you're doing this from the Memorial Cup in Canada, which shows us that, you think a lot of us.
I do think a lot of you. I have a real wonderful time doing this. Vic, what I would say is, we can have virtual coffee like once every 2 weeks and just kind of catch up and visit and then take it from there. We can all be on our patios enjoying summer, however we enjoy them. But honestly, I have such a great time doing this with both of you. And again, I hope it comes across and people enjoy it. So that's great.
I got to tell you something. I have 3 Hawaiian shirts, and we're going to have to get Neil decked out in one of them. So at least, we're kind of showing that we're relaxed. We're dressing down for the off season.
Vic, I wear these types of shirts just to keep the focus off my face, and it works every time.
Well, why don't we put the focus on the 2026 Stanley Cup Final? Carolina Hurricanes led the Eastern Conference during the course of the regular season, and the Vegas Golden Knights, who finished first in the Pacific. This is their first ever playoff meeting. The Golden Knights won both games 8 days apart in October, outscoring the Canes 10-4. I don't think that's going to have too much bearing on what this series turns into. The path to the final for Carolina: sweeping Ottawa, sweeping Philly, beating Montreal in 5. They are the first team to gain the final in only 13 games. Vegas had to come back to beat Utah in 6, beat Anaheim in 6, and then swept the Colorado Avalanche shockingly. So first question that I'm going to put out there to you, Craig, is you look at the paths that both of these teams took to get to the final. And no fault of Carolina, but 3 very appealing opponents. The first 2 completely overmatched. The Canadians had to play 14 games in the first 2 rounds and were really spent by the end. Vegas's path, a little bit more difficult in terms of the number of games and then the opponent that they faced in the conference final. Is it possible that Vegas might be a little bit more battle-tested for this championship series?
I think it was Connor McDavid that called the Pacific Division a pillow fight. So that's where Vegas began, wearing their pajamas against Utah, and Utah is a young team. And, so they won that pillow fight. And then they got Anaheim, an upcoming team who beat Edmonton. And, they had a couple of pillows going, so they won that pillow fight. You got to keep in mind, Vegas would not have made the playoffs in the Eastern Conference with their point total. I think Vegas had a pretty favorable schedule playing Utah and Anaheim, 2 upstarts and with young players. And both those teams, looked like they might be able to have opportunity to beat Vegas, but Vegas's experience carried forth. So, Montreal was a 106-point team in the league, and that was a good team, and Carolina overwhelmed them. However your path is, I look at it this way. I think Vegas is playing really well. Not easy to go and beat a Colorado team. That's really where the test was. But Carolina has shown that throw whoever you want in front of us. We're a wagon. And they overwhelmed it. They lost that first game after a long layoff. It wasn't close in games 2, 3, 4, and 5, and it just kept getting worse and worse. I was asked on TV prior to game 5, they want you to give hope. And I said, listen, Yeah, like I can try to give hope, but I'm going to give you reality. And they asked me what are the chances of them winning before Game 5. I said slim and none, and slim is fading fast. Yeah. That's how dominant the Carolina Hurricanes have been in these playoffs.
Totally agree with you. We haven't seen as dominant a playoff performance by a team in a long time. I mean, I love Florida Panthers and the way they handled the playoffs. They played playoff hockey all season long and then did well. But boy, Carolina I think they've stepped it up a number of rungs in the playoffs. And the doubting Thomases of their goaltending, which seems to have been year after year how we all judged Carolina. We all said, yeah, they're good, but I don't trust their goaltending. Yeah, they're good, but I don't trust their... I mean, we had Tripp Tracy on a year ago, and we said that to Tripp. Can you really get anywhere with that goaltending? And, of course, Tripp stood up for Carolina, which he should. He's their color guy. But this is how far back this goes. And now all of a sudden, I don't know, Carolina's got that too. Now, Freddie Anderson has been spectacular, I think, for the Carolina Hurricanes. It's going to be a good one, I think, but I agree with you. And I didn't really look at it the way you just said it, Craig, where Vegas had Utah to start, which first year in the playoffs in a century. Anaheim, first time in the playoffs in a half a century. And then they go and wipe out the Colorado Avalanche, which I still am in mourning about having predicted that they would win.
So, Neil, I'm going to throw this out to you first because we have seen how relentless the Hurricanes are in all three zones. They're fast. They're hard. They throw pucks at the net from everywhere, including other time zones. Do you believe that they will be able to continue this relentless sort of attack against a Vegas team that was able to shut down the juggernaut that was the Colorado Avalanche?
I do, because I think that it was as much the Colorado Avalanche not playing their game, squeezing their stick, and getting, for some reason, freaked out when they played Vegas, as it was Vegas playing really well, which they did, and Carter Hart was tremendous for that team in that round. But I do still think that Carolina is on a mission. They're incredible the way they come out night after night. In the first minute of every game, they get a scoring chance. They're ready to go every single game, and I think they're going to be ready to go against Vegas.
Yeah, it's interesting when we look at, I picked Colorado too. It was something when you watch a team play at that level for so long, you're not going to doubt them. But I thought that, Game 1 was a real indicator for Colorado when they became like a deer in the headlights. When Dylan Coughlin scores that goal right between Scott Wedgwood's legs. It's a 0-0 game. It's an innocent play. It's a simple save for a goaltender right between the legs. It was at that moment in time that I thought, geez, okay, let's see where this goes. And I never thought that Colorado was able to overcome that, which tells me that they didn't have a lot of belief in their goaltender. And why would you? 33-year-old career backup goaltender. Yeah, I know they won the Jennings. I know they won the defense. But Carter Hart was great, and Scott Wedgwood wasn't. And then Scott Wedgwood was poor. But it was how they created that seed of doubt in the Colorado Avalanche. And, okay, there's no Makar, so now you got to play. And we know McKinnon got hurt. We know there's some of but it was the seed of doubt that Vegas just said, okay, let's see what you got. And I didn't think they ever recovered from Game 1.
Craig, was it similar to the look that Quint gave to Hooper when he realized he couldn't beat the Shark?
I think it was exactly that. And Neil and Vic, you know this. The players always know, and they always know first. They'll talk about the belief they have and everything. Well, your actions speak so loudly. And then Neil said, we think of squeezing the stick sometimes as scoring, but squeezing the stick goes through all parts of your game. There's so many different plays coming out of the penalty box. Sam Malinsky gets a shot blocked, and all of a sudden, Brett Howden is scoring. It was just a continuation of these things of, here's the seed of doubt. We're going to water it. We're going to water it again. And it kept sprouting up and sprouting out. And I think that the Colorado Avalanche realized it. I think there was a situation. That last game in Vegas, I'm watching it. Once Vegas scored to make it 1-0, I said, Vegas is winning this game. 1-0, you never think that. The reason I thought it was because Colorado was just, okay, we just don't have it.
it was 1-0 that looked like 4-0 at the time.
Exactly.
It felt bigger than it was. So as we look at these two teams, unquestionably, the clubs that are the absolute best in their conferences right now deserve to be exactly where they are. Craig, I'll start with you on this one. What is one area that each team can execute to exploit the other?
Well, we just talked about Carolina. They're relentless. And the puck drops and they don't stop until the game ends. That's their MO, and that's what they're going to do. It's a huge weapon. They do it defensively, offensively, transition. The pressure that they assert is phenomenal. Montreal handled it in game one. They couldn't handle it as the series went on in game 2, 3. Ottawa couldn't handle it. Philadelphia couldn't handle it. That is their weapon. That is their kryptonite.
Can Vegas handle that?
Well, you asked me, what does what team have to do to execute? I think all Carolina has to do is keep doing it. Let me answer that question this way. If they don't handle it, this series could be over in 4 or 5, just like it was for those other teams. Vegas has to find an answer for that. Mm-hmm. For Vegas, I think that, they have a little bit more size. They can lean on you a little bit more. They're going to have to find a way to lean in on the Carolina Hurricanes. Try to slow them down. Montreal kept talking about, we got to be quicker. You're not going to be quicker. You needed to slow the game down. You didn't need to speed it up. It's like an F1 race, when you're going around those hairpin turns. You can't do them at 150 miles an hour. You got to gear down to navigate. I think that's what Vegas is. They're going to have to find a way to use their size and slow the game down and lean in on them. Try to shrink the space. Easier said than done. That's what I'm watching for early on. And maybe we should have one after the first 2 games and see what we see from the first 2 games. Have a little, mid-series kind of update. What do you think of that, guys?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. We're always ready for that.
Yeah, put it in the books.
Yeah.
The areas that I think each team can exploit the other, I think Craig nailed it. Carolina is relentless. They're going to start off relentless in Raleigh on Tuesday night. I wouldn't doubt that they'll get a scoring chance in the first 2 minutes of the game, and they'll keep that going right until they walk out the door at the end of the game. I think Vegas has to find a way to slow them down. But the other thing is that I think that Vegas has to find a way to be able to get Eichel, Marner, and Stone all together. That's where they're going to be horribly dangerous. If Carolina takes penalties, I think those guys will make them pay. And I think 5-on-5, Vegas is going to have to, bar the door on the power play. Carolina's got to not give them those chances, because you let Eichel and Marner, freewheel, you're in big trouble. I mean, can you imagine Carolina Hurricanes if they had Eichel and Marner added to the group? Because they've got a bunch of these guys already. The other thing I want to say is that it's just uncanny how good Taylor Hall, Jackson Blake, and Logan Stankoven have been together. I mean, this is a first line playing on the second line now. And it makes you forget about Aho and Jarvis and Shvetnikov. These guys are so good all the time. Vegas is going to have to find a way to try to slow them down, shut them down, if it's even possible to do.
Well, they did do it with Colorado, though. So, Craig, let me ask you. One of the things that Neil and I talked about during the course of the conference final in the East was whether or not it would benefit Montreal to try to get into a track meet with the Hurricanes, or would they have any sort of ability to execute a forecheck, i.e. try to beat the Hurricanes at their own game? Is Vegas capable of doing that over a sustained period?
I don't think so. I think they're going to have to be really positionally sound, and I call it the squeeze. Where do you want to squeeze Carolina? I think if you want to get in a track meet with Carolina, you're playing to their strengths. Carolina's going, oh, yeah, okay, let's go. Let's run. You've seen Bolt used to line up at the starting line in the Olympics in the 200 and 100, right? And everybody was wanting to, open it up. And they tried, and they couldn't beat them. And you can't slow down the 200 meters in the Olympics, but the Vegas Golden Knights can try to slow down. And, there's a pace to the game and a speed to the game. You want to make it a track meet with the Carolina Hurricanes? I think all you're doing is feeding yourself a whole lot of poison.
Neil, in terms of intangibles, Both of these teams can roll four lines. We've already talked about the depth scoring that we've seen in particular from Carolina, but also when you go and you look at that Vegas side and that Brett Howden has 10 goals and Pavel Dorofeev has 10 goals, even though he is playing on the top line. Intangibles in terms of depth scoring, is it the goaltending? Is it the coaching? Where do you see a true determining factor emerging that we might not see at the start of the series?
I think it's going to be in goaltending, and I'll tell you why. Because there's so many of us out here that are the supposed experts that have been skeptical of Freddie Anderson because he's had good first rounds, good second rounds, never had a good third round. Well, now we just had a real good third round. What we forget is that the guy at the other end of the ice has never even been in the playoffs before. Carter Hart never played in the playoffs. Now, he did play well in these first three rounds, but who's to say he's going to be good in the final? Who's to say Freddie Anderson's going to be good in the final? I sort of got to laugh. You got the experienced guy with all this experience, but people doubt him. You got the shiny new toy that's never been in the playoffs and everybody backs him. I don't get it, but I think Carter Hart or Freddie Anderson, I find it hard to believe that they're both going to keep playing the way they've been playing. If one of them goes down even a little bit, that's going to be a huge advantage for the other team, I believe. So that's the intangible to me, is which one of these guys, if either, are going to falter.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And how does the other team make the other goalie falter? I think, again, I talked about what Vegas did to Scott Wedgwood. They made him falter. And I think you want to plant those seeds as early as possible in games. I think that we all know what the records are. We all know what the history is or not in the case of Carter Hart. So the quicker you can try to exploit them and get them to doubt their own goaltender, I think that that's something I'll be watching right early on. Vic, one other thing I wanted to say, too, about when you asked about a track meet. I think that Vegas has this unique weapons with Eichel and Marner. I think you might ask them to play a little bit more dangerously. You might ask them to, really try to take advantage because they're smart players. They're quick. They know how to make plays. They're the guys that you might say, hey, you know what, mix it up a little bit. We're going to play one way with this group of players, but let those guys go and be who they are, because they get moving and they get moving north. They can pose all kinds of problems for the Carolina Hurricanes.
We're going to have our picks at the end of the show, so kind of teasing our folks going forward. So just a reminder that this is NHL Wraparound, the Stanley Cup Final preview presented by UBS Financial Services, Inc. Before we get to our predictions and the picks, Craig, I want your take on what's going on between the Golden Knights and the Oilers and the Kings, and the fact that Kelly McCrimmon is not allowing former coach Bruce Cassidy to speak to any other clubs right now. And the two teams that are at the top of the list are Pacific Division rivals. But McCrimmon came out and said that this wouldn't even be a story. As much as Cassidy wants to go out and work, he said this wouldn't even be a story, and it's only news because the Oilers leaked it. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, I don't know how it got out, and, Kelly pointed the finger elsewhere, and fair enough, but I don't have knowledge of that. You got a team that is playing and have been playing for the whole season. Bruce Cassidy was their coach right up until near the end. Here's the way I look at it. It's a competitive league. The people in it are competitive. So what knowledge does Bruce Cassidy have? Go back to the trade deadline. What players were they considering trading? What players trading for? What intel does he have on his own team and everything? While you're doing this, and now you're looking at LA, you're looking at Edmonton, and you're saying, why do I want them to be able to go ahead to be able to pick the brain of a guy that has a lot of information in our organization? Under the rights of the contract, he says no. Now, I do believe that Kelly is not going to let this carry on into the next season. I think literally after July 1st, his free agent plans, and we know how bold Vegas is. The coach is always part of that. I think Kelly's just protecting his own knowledge and his own information and saying, nobody's tapping into this. And maybe on July 15th, you can talk to him. Maybe that's what he should say. beginning on July 15th, you can talk to them, but not before. We may not like it. When I say we, I'm talking about people and go, oh yeah, it's not the diplomatic thing to do. The Coaches Association keeps putting out statements. They have no standing in this. There's no standard coaching contract. They just keep going on and talking about it. So, like, we may not like it, but Kelly's well within his rights. And from a competitive point of view, I get it. I really do. I get it.
I think where this gets down to is the contractual agreement that an employee and an employer have together. And that is that I will hire you, Vic or Craig, to do this job for me. I will guarantee to pay you, this amount for 3 straight years. But if I tell you don't come to work tomorrow or don't come to work anymore, I still got to pay you. But I could also turn around and tell you, okay, come back to work because I'm still paying you. So is it unfair that, once I've guaranteed you all that money, and that's what you signed up for, that's what all you asked for was money to do the job you said you would do. Is it really unfair that you say, well, geez, I don't care about the money. I'll go somewhere else and do the same job, but do it against your firm, whether it's real estate, furniture, or widget selling? Wasn't it fair that the guy said, no, I'm paying you. You can't go do that. No, you're not doing that. And I guess where we are in this is that we are seeing it as sports. So we're putting sports ahead of everything else. But at the end of the day, this is a business of high money, and you entered into an agreement to take that money under the rules of the contract. It's not all about fun and games and about, well, let poor Bruce go coach. No, it's not about that. We paid the guy X millions of dollars. Like, we get the right to say whether or not he gets to coach. But we all think, well, that's not fair. Poor Bruce, you got to let him coach. And actually, I might have even thought that before today, that, poor Bruce should get to coach. I like Bruce Cassidy. But when you look at the other way, and Craig just sort of made me come up with this, you know what? They're well within the rights to say, no, we're paying you a ton of money. You're not going to go to our direct competitor. That's like saying to a guy that designs cars for General Motors, well, we don't need you to work now. And he says, okay, well, I'm going to go design cars for Ford now. Okay. And they go, no, can't do that.
$4.5 million.
Let me add to that, Vic. Yeah. Well, in all industries, there's non-compete clauses.
Yeah.
Gary Bettman, and Neil knows this. Gary Bettman knows what contract law is. He understands. He believes in the sanctity of contracts. And keep in mind what Neil just said. Bruce Cassidy signed the contract. He's a signatory to the agreement. And yeah, I get it. You're going to try to put pressure on him, whatever you do. I would suggest to Bruce Cassidy, be quiet, mind your business, because if you want to keep poking Kelly McCrimmon and the Vegas Golden Knights, he very well may just say, we're going by the contract. Sit around. Your checks will come every whatever time they come. And you know what? You're not going to coach this year. That's what I would suggest to Bruce Cassidy, because his whining is not going to move the Vegas Golden Knights any way that he would like them to.
I'll tell you what did move. The standings. In our playoff predictions, as we start to wind our segment down here, Neil, perhaps you'd like to offer up what happened in the last round.
Well, I'll give you the current standings since the host of this show, Craig, wants to puff out his chest.
Yeah.
He got it right with the Vegas Golden Knights beating the Colorado Avalanche. You and I stupidly took the Avalanche, thinking that President's Trophy team would beat the pathetic division Golden Knights. But Vic Morren, backing his buddy John Tortorella, got the victory in that round and thus moved himself well up the standings. So the standings now are you, Craig, 77 points in first place, but only 2 points ahead of the aforementioned Vic Morren, who was 75. And then Neil Toilet Paper Smith is wiping up the rear with 63 points at this point.
So, Neil, I got to have a little defense here, okay? So, you're right. Vic is sitting here He looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger posing at the bodybuilding contest. It's unbelievable. But Neil, I mean, president and general manager of the Presidents Trophy-winning and Stanley Cup-winning 1994 New York Rangers. And I was part of the Dallas Stars in 1999 when we won the President's Trophy and the Stanley Cup. What I would suggest is either Neil or myself or Neil and me because go work with a team that wants to win the President's Trophy if you want to win the Stanley Cup. Because Neil knows how to do it, and I was part of it. Why wouldn't we pick the President's Trophy?
And Craig, we are 2 of only 8 that have done that. Only 8 in 39 years have done that. And none since 2013.
So I hadn't looked at that, Neil. I did not know that. I did not know that. That is a really interesting stat.
2 of only 8, and none since Chicago did it in 2013 or 15, which was
13 was the last time.
13. So 13 years, nobody.
And that was a lockout year, Neil, 2013.
Yeah. So those are the standings: 77 Craig, 75 Vic, 63 Neil.
So obviously by doing the math with 10 points for correctly picking the winner in the right number of games, regardless, Neil would be eliminated here. However, he is perhaps trying to cook the books a little bit here to give himself a chance to get himself back into this. So he proposed something to me yesterday, and I said, you got to run this past Craig to see if he thinks this is kosher, and then we'll go ahead with it. So go ahead, Neil.
And so I am bringing before the Board of Governors, and the 3 of us are the Board of Governors of this league. I am bringing for a second chance to get more points in the final. And that is if you can correctly say how many total goals will get scored in the final. And if you can correctly say that, you get 10 points. For every goal you're off, let's say, for example, you pick 40 goals, but it's only 35, you lose 5 points and you get 5 points for what you said. And you add that on to whether or not you got the right winner and how many games. So it's just another category that you could get points in so that Smith is not left watching this thing.
Okay, so if you say 40 total goals and they score 41, you lose 5 points? You have to get it spot on?
You lose 1 point. You get 9.
1 point. Okay. Oh, I see how you're doing it. Okay.
All right.
Well, listen, I'm all for competitive balance. I'm all for keeping the competition going. If this keeps Neil alive and keeps him enthusiastic, Vic, I'm voting yes on this.
I got to tell you, I was so happy, like putting a Z next to his name for being eliminated. And then he comes up with this. So, but you know what, Craig? You are always fair. You're fun. You're the voice of reason here. So with that, we are going to go ahead. We're going to pick the final. But Toilet Paper Smith, you're going to pick first because you are currently residing in the bronze medal position. So go ahead, pick your winner, pick your games, pick your total goals.
Okay, I know you guys think I'm going to go full chicken on this, right? and and go 7, but I'm not. I'm going to go Carolina in 5 with 27 goals scored.
All right.
That's what Carolina will score, or total goals in the series?
No, that's the total number of goals in the series.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to go residing in that 2-hole, ready to pounce. And I'm going to go Vegas, 6 games, 33 total goals.
Okay, that's interesting. Hey, Neil, how about this one? I'm going Vegas in 6 games, 33 total goals.
Thank you, Craig. I'll send you the check.
I'm kidding, Vic. Come on.
Like
that was too easy. That was too easy. And what would be really funny is if we did that and Neil wins and now moves from the Z and then he's the champion. We would give him the Peter Pocklington who put his father on the Stanley Cup and they just put X's across it to take his name off. Yeah. I am taking Carolina. I'm going to say 6 games and I'm going to say 32 goals.
All right.
So they're going to win the Cup in Vegas.
Yeah. I want to see Carolina listen, Ovi kind of set the standard for winning a Cup in Vegas. You take it to the fountains, you frolic in the fountains, and you have a ball with the Stanley Cup. Like, if that isn't the template for winning a Stanley Cup in Vegas for a visiting team, that's where I'm at. And so if that happens and we see the captain, in this case, Jordan Staal, go and frolic in the fountain, I get 5 extra points just for theatrics.
We'll give you some post-frolic credit for that. How's that? Hey, Craig, before we let you go, each of us, Conn Smythe Trophy winner for each team. Who do you got?
I'll start with Carolina, and I have Carolina winning. I'm going to go with Freddie Anderson. Put all the doubt behind you full on. And I think that would be really, really good. And for the Vegas Golden Knights, Mitch Marner's gone this far. I don't know why he doesn't want to drive the stake right through the Toronto Maple Leafs fan base. He's my Conn Smythe guy in Vegas.
Neil?
Oh, you want me to go next? I'm going to say
said that for fun.
Jack Eichel for Vegas and Logan Stankoven, or all if you read it a different way, it's Stank Oven.
That's very creative. I'm going to go Carter Hart if Vegas wins, and I'm going to go Taylor Hall if the Hurricanes win, just to be a little different here.
Now, remember on this one, Craig, there are no points for this stuff because I talked it over with my partner pre-show, and he didn't want any points for the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. I would have put more points on this, saying that if you got this and you got this, and then you got the Conn Smythe Trophy winner, and then I would have done a thing and said, and will Gary Bettman hand it to him with his left hand or his right hand, and you get more points for that.
You were going to do anything possible to ensure that you could get enough points here. So, you're very underhanded.
So, Craig, here's 2 things for you. Trivia. I know you like trivia. Frank Patrick and Lester Patrick introduced the playoffs into hockey to give the teams a second chance, who had suffered through injuries during the regular season and had a bad regular season. So when you won the league, you won the Prince of Wales Trophy. That was a big deal if you ended first. But then you had a chance to go on and make up. If you were in fourth and you were there because of injuries, there was this playoff tournament they had that you went on. Isn't that interesting? Because now everything's about the playoffs, and the regular season's an afterthought. But I regress.
It's interesting. And the playoffs, you know what the most shocking thing for me in the playoffs is? Is that in the conference finals, in each conference final, 4-1, 4-0. Usually, we start to see, a little bit tighter games, a little bit tighter series. That was the biggest shocker for me. And, Taylor Hall, to your comment, if he wins the Conn Smythe, that means he would add that to his Hart Trophy.
Correct.
MVP for regular season MVP. You think about Taylor Hall, first overall pick, and now what he's doing for the Carolina Hurricanes. There is rejuvenation, for players, and certainly Taylor Hall looks rejuvenated.
Well, he's playing with those 2 young kids, and I guess that's probably put some life in him too, because those 2 kids have been just amazing. 22 and 23 years old, I believe those 2 are.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, sometimes that's what you need, right? You just need to be around that fountain of youth.
Yeah.
Well, Craig, as always, thanks so much for all 4 rounds of your input, and perhaps midway through the round, we'll bring you back, we'll revisit, and we'll see how our predictions are evolving, and maybe we'll do something at the end that will lead up into the NHL draft. How's that?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I would say that, a recap. And what it does, Vic, is it gives Neil more opportunity to think about ways to get points.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. But Sounds like a great idea. We'll see you midway through the final.
Yeah, thanks.
You're shameless in terms of manipulating the system here to try to gain your points to get back in.
Neil, Vegas Golden Knights Smith. Always
Yes.
trying to manipulate the system to try to win.
Boy, you are something. I mean, did George McPhee call you
Yeah.
or Kelly McCrimmon to say, come up with more and different ways that are technically still legal to try to win, even though it may be unsavory to your partners on this show?
This is why there's only been one Stanley Cup in New York. I manipulated it then, and now there hasn't been another one for 86 years.
Well, nonetheless, I think we had a lot of fun with Craig with that, and we'll see how this Stanley Cup final wraps up. So, serious note here as we start to wrap up the show that Claude Lemieux's brain will be donated to the Boston University CTE Center. Lemieux died by suicide on Thursday. And, Neil, this was something that you had thrown out to me, that this is a possibility, and the Lemieux family has given permission to publicly release the findings, though no conclusion should be drawn. But I do find it interesting that they have agreed to donate Claude's brain to the medical center at Boston University.
Yeah, well, isn't that wonderful? I know my good friend and your good friend John Saunders had his brain donated to be examined after his untimely death. Anytime that you can help the future with science through a donation, I think it's very honoring.
In his post-playing career, Lemieux had become a player agent, and his career to the next generation of players. And regardless of the findings, at least the family is offering that whatever these findings are, that this will help perhaps future generations of players through medical science.
And just future generations at all. Anytime that science can see things and get in and look at things, the brain is the only part of the body that we never get to see in its live form. Every other part of the body, doctors can go in and look at it, doctors can examine it, doctors can tell you what's wrong with it, but the brain, you can't. So this is very, very important to science, that we have some ability to look at the brain.
We also had another passing on Saturday. Dennis Hull died at the age of 81. The brother of the Golden Jets scored 303 goals in 14 NHL seasons, 13 of those with the Chicago Blackhawks. He was also a member of Team Canada in that memorable Summit Series in 1972. I grew up watching him. You grew up watching him. And in an era where not many players could really shoot the puck, besides Bobby Hull and maybe Vic Hadfield, Dennis Hull may have had the most feared shot of them all.
A lot of people said that, and I know that one season he played for Detroit in the Detroit Olympia, they were the dead things back then, the dead wings, and every time he'd get the puck, everybody was in the balcony, shoot, because this guy could put it through the goalie, through the net, and through the boards. He was one of the most hilarious people I've ever encountered when on a dais for an event. He was so funny and, of course, so full of humor about his brother Bobby, and just a real fun guy, loved to laugh, and was, also a real good hockey player.
Why don't you hit the Stanley Cup Final schedule?
All games start at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, either on ABC in the United States or Sportsnet and CBC in Canada. The first game is Tuesday at Carolina, then Thursday staying in Raleigh, Saturday in Vegas, that's June 6th, June 9th, after 2 days off, in Vegas again. And then the series shifts back, if necessary, to Carolina on Thursday the 11th, goes back to Vegas if necessary on Sunday the 14th, which is also the day that the Rangers won the Cup in 1994.
Yes, I'm aware.
And if necessary, Game 7 back in Raleigh, North Carolina on June 17th. Again, all games start at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time.
All right. That'll wrap up our show. Thanks to Craig Button, as always, for joining us. And thanks to UBS Financial Services, Inc. NHL Wraparound and UBS Financial Services, Inc. are not affiliated. UBS is a sponsor of NHL Wraparound, and no other affiliation, relationship, or endorsement is made, suggested, intended, or should be implied or inferred between UBS and NHL Wraparound or any of the individuals or businesses and or their respective products and services appearing in this program.
If you want to reach us, you can reach us individually, Neil at NHLWraparound.com, or, of course, Vic at NHLWraparound.com. We're on all podcast platforms, including Apple, Amazon, iHeart, Spotify, and, of course, YouTube. You can even see us on YouTube. And please leave a review. Subscribe if you're using YouTube. Please hit that button for subscribe. You can find us on X, Instagram, TikTok. You can find us at radi8.tv. And, of course, we're very proud to be on buzzer.com. That's BZZR.com, where you can find all kinds of different sports, anything you like. A lot of different creators are on there. A real fun platform to go to. Our website is NHLWraparound.com. And on Monday, Vic, we are going to have back Jim Montgomery, somebody that we've had here as the coach of the Boston Bruins and as a coach of the St. Louis Blues now. Jim will give us his insights into the playoffs so far from a head coaching perspective of watching those games.
And the fact that he has coached against both of these teams, having coached in both conferences, should be a very insightful discussion. We will also have the Colorado Avalanche spring cleaning on Tuesday, then Montreal later in the week, and Stanley Cup Day returns on Wednesday to recap Game 1, Hurricanes, Golden Knights. On behalf of Neil, I'm Vic, and enjoy all the content that we have in store for you coming up during the course of this week.
Thanks for joining us on the NHL Wraparound Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on all the NHL action.